today with my oncologist, who I think, you know, as a person, I don't think is a bad guy. But as an oncologist, I think leaves lots to be desired. So, what happened today is I had an appointment with my oncologist, kind of just a regular routine appointment, but I had been having these pains and I wanted to talk to him about it. So, went in and I saw him and I was telling him about the pains that I've been having. And I was like, I don't know if it's cancer related, if it's supplement related. I'm not really sure. And I explained the pains to him. And my biggest thing is I felt like if it was a cancer pain, I feel like it would have been more, the pain I'm having would be more constant. I don't feel like it would just kind of come and go. So I asked him, I was like, what could this be? Because it's more of a flare up type pain. It flares up and usually late in the evening, and I'm in pain for a day or two. By like the second day, it goes away and I'm feeling better. And I told him it kind of radiates out. It starts kind of in my lower abdomen, and not lower, but upper abdomen, and radiates out. And I have pains in my shoulder and kind of in my back. And I was like, what could that be? And he simply said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that could be. And that was like the end of it. He didn't want to offer any kind of possibility. He didn't want to like mull it over. He's just like, I don't know. I mean, you think an oncologist has seen everything, right? You would think. Well, we got to looking at my latest CAT scan, which I had last Monday, and the radiologist still has not looked at it and sent a report about my scan. So he's like, "Well, I'm not a radiologist. Radiologist, yeah, but I can take a look at the scan and tell you what I think I see." And so he's looking at the scan and he's, showing me the tumors, and he's like, well, we can kind of measure it based on, this is what it was last time, this is what it is this time. And then, I told him, I was like, well, the first time I got a CAT scan, they'd found a blood clot in my spleen or near my spleen or whatever. And so he's looking over at the spleen. He's like, well, I don't see anything to indicate that. He's like, but just based on what I can see, I don't see anything to indicate that. And then he got on the topic of my gallbladder. Well, I have a really good size gallstone in my gallbladder because this is the first time I've seen it on the CAT scan. It's good size, and I was like, wow. I was like, what should we do about that? I was like, is that a problem? Should we do anything about that? And he's like, well, you're going to die of cancer. So, and what he was getting at, what he was implying is, you'll probably die of cancer before we have to worry about your gallbladder. So I'm not worried about your gallbladder because, you'll be dead before that becomes an issue anyway. That's what he was getting at. And he literally said, well, you're going to die of cancer. So I'm not too worried about the gallbladder. And I, I just, it didn't even dawn on me that what he said was just crazy messed up. I mean, that was just, first of all, you don't know what I'm going to die of. I could get in a car wreck tomorrow and die in a car wreck. I could have a heart attack or a stroke or get a an illness. And I mean, you don't know what I'm going to die of. And you don't know how long it's going to take me to die. Yeah, it could be 5 years. It could be 10 years, you know? But he made it sound like he made it sound like you'll probably be dead in a year. And I don't think your gallbladder is going to need servicing within that year. However, once I got home and I started really researching gallbladder, because he said the only way to treat, a stone light is to remove your gallbladder. I was like, well, would it be worth it to do that? Well, anyway, no, obviously, I didn't think it was. So I started researching the type, if you have an issue with your gallbladder, what symptoms would you have? And lo and behold, pretty much most of the symptoms that I've been experiencing with this pain is associated with gallbladder issues. So this guy didn't even want to explore that maybe I am having trouble with my gallbladder, and maybe I do need to have something done about my gallbladder. He didn't even want to think about it. It wasn't even like he didn't care. You know, you're going to be dead before we have to worry about that. So let's just worry about the cancer, which, by the way, is still growing. And you know, a lot of times when stuff like this happens, when people say pretty messed up stuff to me, my mind's usually on kind of like whatever I'm thinking about, whatever, you know, I'm trying to get my thoughts together about what it is I need to think about and whatever it is I need to talk about. It doesn't even like register with me right away that what somebody said to me was pretty messed up until I started thinking about it after the appointment. I was like, wow, you know, he didn't even care enough to really examine the issue of what could be a gallbladder issue. So anyway, makes you feel really, really wonderful, doesn't it? To know that doctors care so much for you. I mean, it's frustrating. And, you know, I am going to be moving out of this state sometime before the end of summer. So, in a sense, it doesn't matter because I'm going to be with a different doctor at some point anyway. But thankfully, I've had some people tell me that I should start taking this stuff called Stone Breaker. And it's supposed to be really good about with helping people who are dealing with, you know, gallstones and kidney stones. So I ordered that today, and hopefully that'll help out, because it's a pretty painful thing. And it wouldn't it be great if that's what the issue was, and I take this stuff and I don't have that pain anymore? Because if I didn't have that pain, I would still be feeling pretty normal. Here I am thinking that it could be because of the cancer. Hello, who's ever there? Nice to see you. Someone else is up late at night like me. I'm a night owl. I hate mornings. I mean, I don't hate mornings. I actually love mornings. I just don't like the way I feel in the morning. So I don't like being up early because I always feel like garbage in the mornings. But so I will let you know if I take this Stonebreaker stuff and I start feeling better. That'll make me feel so much better, like emotionally. Like me feel emotionally better. But it will make me feel like garbage knowing that I have a cancer doctor that isn't interested in alleviating my pain. He just basically said, well, go ahead and take ibuprofen, but don't take too much of it because it's not good for your liver. Okay, thanks. So I just wanted to jump on here and tell you all about that today. And I'm telling you, how does anybody get well? And when these are the type of doctors we encounter, you know, he reiterated the fact that since the cancer's in my liver, that I'm incurable. I can't be cured, which I've known people that have had colon cancer in their liver that were cured. I've known people. So why do doctors keep saying that? I don't know. Something needs to be done about our system. It needs to be torn down and restructured. So that's all, that's all I want to do is just tell you about my day. Wait, I'm not done. No. So when I got home, I called Hoxie down in Mexico because I'm sitting here thinking, right now my tumors are still growing. My liver doesn't have much left of it. And I was thinking maybe I should get a liver transplant because in Colorado, that was an option. As long as my cancer hadn't grown hadn't spread to other organs within 6 months, I was a candidate for a liver transplant. So I started investigating that. And of course, I talked to my doctor. I sent him a message, and he's like, well, you wouldn't be a good candidate because you got cancer that spread to your liver. So you wouldn't be a good candidate. I'm sitting there thinking, you're not a surgeon. It's not up to you to decide whether I'm a candidate or not. It's up to the transplant people to decide if I'm a good candidate. Anyway, so I started thinking about that, and I called Hoxie, and I wanted to get their opinion because I figured they would be somewhat neutral. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like their opinion would be a little more neutral. And they told me what I was thinking, because there was a fee. Anyway, what they said to me made a whole lot of sense. They said, well, if you have active cancer, it's not a good idea for you to get a transplant. They said, number one, if you do decide to get a transplant, then you have to be off supplements for an entire year after your transplant. So I couldn't do the Hoxie thing at all for a year after my transplant. And they said, not only that, when you get a transplant, they have to shut down your immune system in order to keep your body from rejecting the new organ. So your immune system is going to be highly, what's the word I'm looking for? Compromised. And so if you have cancer in your body, what's to keep it from going into some other organ? It's very likely to end up in some other organ. So you get a new liver, but then your kidneys are ruined, or your pancreas, or whatever. And I was like, well, that makes sense, because I was worried about that. And so they told me that what they would like for me to do is come down to Hoxie and spend a week and do this treatment that they have, that I've never heard of before. This is new, which is weird, because I've thought I've heard of just about everything, but clearly I haven't. This treatment that they do is where they take 8 ounces of your blood, and they separate your white blood cells from your red blood cells. And they basically teach your white blood cells how to better, and this is me kind of making up the language. This is not exactly how she explained it, but this is me trying to make sense of it, where they're basically teaching your white blood cells how to recognize the cancer cells and fight them more effectively. So it's kind of like they build up this army of white blood cells that are really good at killing off the cancer, and then they re-inject them back into your body. Now, I don't know why or how that takes a week, but you have to be down there for a whole week. So I'm like, well, that's kind of exciting. I feel like I can do that. And she said, that's what I would like to do. I would like for you to come and do that. So I think I might do that. I mean, we'll see how it goes. What do I have to lose? I think I'd rather try that than cutting open my body, throwing away my old liver and putting in someone else's liver in my body, which, by the way, I have moral issues against that. I do have a hard time taking somebody else's liver, because I know that it's not the most ethical thing to harvest people's organs. And we won't get into that in this video. I'd like to talk about that sometime, though. So I do have a little bit of a compunction against taking somebody's liver. Yeah, granted, they were probably brain dead, but were they really? Were they really? I don't know. I don't know how much I believe the terminology or even the methodology. So I would have a hard time with that procedure. So I think I'm going to do the Hoxie, and I got a lot to do this summer. I got Italy, I've got Hoxie, I've got to move. What else? Yeah. Oh, and then I got to go back 3 months after. So I do the 1 week at Hoxie, and then 3 months later I got to go back and have something else done. But I'm only there for a couple of days, not like the whole week. So then I got to do that again. So I've got a lot to do. But the good news is my house closes day after tomorrow, and I got a lot of bills to pay off. So anyway, hello everyone who's there. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff, I'd love to answer them, or at least hear your questions. And if I can't answer them, then to pose them to whoever I could pose them to try to get the answer. So I hope y'all are doing well, having a good night, you night owls that are out there just like me. And I guess I'll talk to you all later. Take care. God bless. And do all the YouTubey things, please. Like, subscribe, share. This might be somewhat good information for other people. Not all my videos are very shareable, and I know that, but this one might be. So I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.